When you need help and loved ones turn away, this is the hardest thing to worry about. Maybe someone has no hearts, and it doesn't matter who stabs in the back. However, Elena had a hard time after all. On the eve of an expensive operation, her husband left her. He did not want to wait for his wife to recover, so we decided to force things, but his tricks were not in vain, and his wife took revenge. It all started with the fact that Elena was in the hospital. She had problems with her spine. The doctor prescribed a course of rehabilitation therapy, but warned that she needed an expensive operation. In order not to put the woman before the fact, he immediately announced the required amounts. Elena then almost fell to the office when she looked at the bill. She definitely didn't have so much money. So what now? There was one way out, to talk to her husband so that he would try to find this money. But Pablo did not behave very well. I do not know how I can help you. And is it even worth doing it? Are you suddenly disabled? Should I take care of you for the rest of my life? Out of anger, the wife wanted to grab onto his face, but restrained herself. You've forgotten who gave you the money to buy a car? After all, my parents helped you. And now you say you're not ready to look for money? It was painful and embarrassing to realize this, but Pablo decided to step back from solving her problem. Who else will help in this situation? The thought came to her mind to turn to her best friend, but she also refused, citing temporary financial difficulties. When Elena once again came to the doctor for an appointment, she honestly told him everything. The operation, the doctor looked at her and replied, I think that in the near future the situation may change. You just follow all my instructions, but don't worry about other things. The doctor gave her hope for improvements, but it was not clear how he was going to change the situation. But everything turned out to be easier. The fact is that Pablo secretly met with another woman, and she turned out to be the sister of that same doctor. Everything that happened next was like a plot from the good old detective story. Returning from the hospital, Elena did not find Pablo at home. There was a note on the table, I left you forever. I'm tired of pandering to your whims. Handle your problems on your own. She did not expect another scenario, but she did not even think that her husband would decide to leave her so quickly. So he found himself such a passion. Who has no health problems? The woman did not fall into despair, but on the contrary, she felt a surge of strength in herself. She was interested in the doctor who treated her. Yes, and he felt mutual sympathy for Elena, but he was not yet spoken openly about this so as not to frighten his patient with his temperaments. In the depths of her soul, Elena thanked fate that she and Pablo did not have children. Otherwise, who would have raised them while she was in rehab? For a while, the woman moved in with her parents. She could not stay in her apartment for a long time. Mother and father gladly gave up the bedroom to their daughter, and they themselves moved into the living room. They had a serious conversation in the kitchen during dinner. Elena, why are you tormenting yourself? If Pablo was gone, then so be it. Teresa was supported by Benito, Elena's father. Mother correctly tells you, you should not worry about the person who left in difficult times. But Dad, I lived with him for 5 years. Is this all down the drain? Said the daughter. Her mother put her hand on her shoulder and said, your father and I have been together for 32 years, and anything happened. I almost kicked him out of the house once, but then I realized that a man must be loved for his actions. Benito proved that he was worthy of your mother. It was at least somehow a consolation after all. Recently, Elena heard very few pleasant words. The doctor insists that an operation is needed. Pablo left her, in general, sheer bad luck, and this is in the prime of life when life begins. The woman felt that everyday confidence in the future was melting like snow in the middle of summer, and the further the more sad it was to accept the current situation. The next day, Elena again went to the procedures. This time the doctor made her happy that there would be an operation soon, but not a word about money. I almost decided everything. The formalities remain, what he meant was a mystery. In the evening, Pablo called and said that he was filing for divorce. try to hint about the apartment, but Elena firmly stated that he would not receive a single square meter, and she had something to operate on because the housing actually belonged to Elena legally even before her marriage. She sold her aunt's house and then took out a loan, and just a year ago paid off with him. The apartment was bought with this money, and now no one except herself could claim this property. As for Pablo, he just wanted to put pressure on Pity, but Elena did not succumb to his tricks and told her mother about it. When Teresa listened to her, she answered, "Everything is correct. Do not look at the fact that he lives with his mistress as on borough rights. It's good that Benito doesn't know anything. He would have beaten the soul out of him for such encroachments." The woman saw how her parents protect her. It was safe to go into battle after all. The rear, as they say, is secured. A couple of days later, the doctor himself called her and invited her to an appointment. Elena was surprised that the doctor was in a hurry with the examination. When she was in this office, a woman was sitting next to him. She did not introduce herself, the doctor did it for her. "Elena, I want to introduce you to my sister. I won't say that there will be a pleasant conversation, but without it, it is difficult to solve some problems." The woman asked, "Good, I am listening to you carefully," but before starting the discussion, the doctor asked, "Tell me, how do you feel? I have recently prescribed a new medication. How is it going?" "So far, so good. Only tend to sleep, and sometimes my head hurts," said Elena. The doctor nodded his head and wrote something down in a journal. "I agree. There may be side effects. If you feel a sharp deterioration, then do not take the pills anymore." There was some tension, and it was noticeable not only by how Elena was nervous. After all, even an unfamiliar woman shifted her handbag from one hand to another. The doctor paused and said, "Well, now we can start the discussion. Just please take care of yourself and don't freak out. It is very important. Understand? I'm trying for your good." Elena waved her hand, indicating that she was ready to talk. In general, the doctor did not hide the fact that his sister was in the office, but she did not come just like that, but wants to provide interesting information. "Do not think that I have a desire to brag to you, but I must say that your husband, Pablo, is my lover." "Yes, that's right, but believe me, I had no intention of taking him away from the family." Elena didn't know what to say. She did not know what to answer, but then she gathered her thoughts. "On the eve of the operation, you decided to undermine my health." The doctor walked over to her and sat down next to her. "You're not right. My sister wants to help you. The fact is that your husband wants to live with her, but he does not have his own apartments." Elena didn't understand what he was getting at, and what does Pablo have to do with it, and what does it all mean? Sergio, that was the name of the doctor, continued, "My sister has an apartment, but she suggested to your husband to expand." So the conversation turned to credit. A certain mosaic began to take shape, but essential details were missing. Then Sergio moved on to the main topic of conversation. So the sister will help him with a loan but will not expand and will give the necessary amount of money for the operation. Everything was kind of complicated. Elena even thought that there was a catch somewhere, but it was not clear from which side to wait for him. It seemed that the doctor did not deceive. It was clear from his face that he was speaking sincerely. On the other hand, his sister, why would she get involved in such a scam? Maybe she has her own reasons. Elena decided to clarify, "I never heard your name." "Well, okay, I'm most worried about the purpose for which she wants to punish Pablo." Mariana admitted that she decided on this after he deceived her cousin. "I do not understand." "So he not only cheated on me with you," Elena was surprised. "It turns out that you are not the first in his list," the woman nodded. "I'm listed under the second number and maybe even lower. I don't know. Most likely that your husband is still that woman Walker." Elena no longer had any doubts about whether to punish Pablo or take pity. An operation was approaching, and she was waiting for the necessary money to arrive at the hospital's accounts. Sergio was also nervous, afraid that nothing would work out in the end, but Pablo fell for Arena's trick and got a bank loan. Naturally, the mistress played out a pre-prepared scenario, and after a while, part of the amount migrated to a medical institution. The doctor himself called and said that everything was ready. Elena went to the hospital the same day. Sergio personally watched her and came to the ward several times. He made sure that all the parameters were normal and even started a conversation with her. I have long noticed that you have a strained relationship with your husband. Would you like to share why this happened? Elena did not hide and confess. At first, I did not notice how Pablo was changing for the worse. Everything was attributed to the fact that he gets tired at work, yes, and life is now such that the nerves are almost at the limits. The doctor agreed with this. I understand how difficult it is for you. My wife also could not stand it and left due to my position. I often had to be on duty, and my wife was not used to the fact that her husband was not at home. She endured a year or two, I don't remember exactly, and then the exposure limit ran out. Paula gathered her things and slammed the door. Elena did not quite understand why the doctor was telling her all this, but she intuitively felt that he was showing sympathy. Finally, Elena was taken to the operation, and Sergio wished her good luck. She said thank you and closed her eyes. She thought that she would not open them until everything was over. Basically, that's what happened. 3 hours later, sleeping Elena was taken to the ward, but not to the one where she was lying, but to a more comfortable one. A few minutes later, she was brought to her senses, and only then did she open her eyes. The first sensations were incomprehensible, and the woman decided that this was the effect after the operation. Sergio enters the room. Well, how are you? Maybe you want to say something? The woman showed her hand that she wanted to rest, and that date, the doctor did not visit her anymore, but furtively looked at how Elena was behaving. All this time, the woman did not sleep but simply lay on the bed. It was clear that she was thinking about something. A nurse came into Sergio's cabinet. Well, what can you say? How was the operation? He replied that everything was fine. Now we have to wait until Elena comes to her senses. The next day, she began to get up on her own and with the help of a nurse, walk around the ward. Sergio comes again. I see that you are making progress. If it continues like this, then in 2 weeks, we will discharge you. Elena herself had no desire to stay longer. A few days later, she was able to independently walk to Sergio's cabinet and, knocking, open the door. Doctor, thank you for your help. I understand it wasn't easy, but give a big thank you to your sister. Let me see you after discharge, said the doctor. Elena blinked her eyes unequivocally and left the office. It feels like it gave her a little bit of hope. With Pablo, she made up her mind. He didn't know what surprise was in store for him. What he's doing now, she doesn't know. She doesn't want to know. Now, Sergio was taking care of her as promised. He took her home after being discharged from the hospital. It's hard to imagine what she would have done without his help. Of course, everything turned out not entirely ethical, but everyone got what they deserved, and Elena's ex-husband got off lightly. Moreover, this was not the first time he deceived women, only this time, he himself was circled around his finger, so to speak, punished for past sins. A husband left his wife without money on the eve of an expensive operation, but he still did not know what surprise she had prepared for him. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.